I can't do this without you.
Welcome to a new game for this channel, but honestly you've probably bumped into at least references to it before. It's been around since the beta in 2013, it's on PC, it's on PlayStation 4, Xbox, and was recently announced to be heading to the Nintendo Switch. Yes, it's Warframe, and it's pretty odd. If you search around online about Warframe, it's not long before you start seeing comparisons to Destiny. It's an interesting observation for sure. Mainly PvE shooting, small squads over larger MMO-style parties and regions, emphasis on grinding to progress, overall sci-fi aesthetic, and so on. The more you look, the more the differences you'll find though. For starters, here's a big one. Warframe is free. Yes, properly free. In fact, free to the point that there are even ways for players to earn the game's hard currency via trading, and there aren't many titles brave enough to let something like that happen in their game. Movement is a big thing for Warframe. In fact, one of the first differences to Destiny you'll see is the complete focus on a third-person view. This works in tandem with the movement. The idea of being a sci-fi space ninja really is turned up to 11. Some maps will have you twirling, twisting and sliding through at breakneck speed. It's probably one of the first ways in which you'll find Warframe a bit odd. When you watch someone stream or YouTube video from your favourite British sounding gaming channel, it can all look a little bit overbearing. If people stand still, it's okay, but when they move it becomes a bit of an assault on the senses. A frenetic ballet unlike most games you've ever played before. I'm just going to say that seems like a normal first reaction. It's worth pushing through though and learning more about this odd game. And in fact, with time, that movement becomes a deeply satisfying part of the experience. The Warframes themselves are probably as close as the game gets to classes. There are some frames that have great offensive capabilities, defensive options, support or group buffs, unique movement and so on. They can be unlocked in a variety of ways, some from quests, others have you praying to RNG gods to have them drop the parts you need. The frames aren't just classes though, each has its own style, some muscular, others more flighty or even dainty. There's a definite feeling of them being characters in their own right. Another way in which Warframe differs from Destiny is how they treat their weapons, loot, and how that grind is implemented. In Destiny you are forever finding new weapons, swapping the same one out for a new one with higher stats, and that was how you moved forward. Warframe takes a completely different angle. You'll often be looking for resources that allow you to craft blueprints to make the weapons and warframes that you want to use. Once it's crafted, you'll then need to level that weapon or frame to see it reach its full potential. So although it may seem like a third-person PvE shooter, in fact there are a layer of mechanics reminiscent of ARPGs, think Diablo 3 or Path of Exile, at play here as well. If you want more focused gameplay, then there are higher level missions, but for a more relaxed time, perhaps with some music on, Warframe lets you lower that intensity to farm for materials or whatever it is you're after. Progression doesn't have to come just from those high stress areas. What's more, once your weapons or warframes are crafted, there's a whole layer of customization through what's called the mod system. These have a card-like appearance and can be placed in the slots of your weapons or warframe to adjust power, types of damage, crit modifiers, status procs and so on. Frankly, there's a lot of detail that I'm not going to go into right now, but know that this system, the collection of the mods themselves, and how they can be set up, create builds that leads to huge variation and interest for progression in Warframe. We should probably talk about the art style too. I'd place it in the odd category as well, but I'm also well aware that visuals are perhaps the peak of personal preference. To some, the blend of sci-fi and organic shapes appeals and is refreshing. For other people, they can't get past quite how different it looks, no matter what the gameplay structures beneath are. I can see both sides. I'd place myself somewhere in between those two different extremes. But it's worth at least referencing that this is a unique looking world, born far from the cookie cutter sci-fi styles that can permeate a lot of games. There's so much to talk about in Warframe that I don't want to discuss it all and make a drawn out 30-minute video that nobody wants to digest, but know that there is content in Warframe and things to keep you occupied for many, many hours. There are interesting story quests with tons of lore for those wanting to know more. And even for me, someone who's not used to caring about that side of games, I found myself sucked in and interested enough to play all that I could. The quality of these story experiences is high, and I'm certainly not going to be spoiling any of that for you. There's progression through acquisition of new items like frames and weapons, through syndicates where you earn reputation and trade that in for other rare items, through other factions and side quests where you can mine and scavenge for rare materials to help you raise your standing and craft unique gear. So what about downsides? Well, no game is perfect, and Warframe with its unique style was never going to be a bland, one-size-fits-all, designed by committee sort of experience. I'd say that there are clearly some rough edges that AAA titles, and honestly even some normal indie titles, would have rounded and improved on. But Warframe's frenetic content schedule seems to be of more importance to them. For example, those story quests I mentioned, the fun of those is the actual lore and story. I found some of the mechanics used during those to be sometimes simplistic or repetitive. Or when new mechanics were included, the actual experience of learning them, getting feedback from them and an understanding what was actually required was lacking. It felt like something that other titles may have iterated on more. Another complaint might be the actual crafting times for Warframes. The weapons tend to be a 12-hour wait, or you can pay in their hard currency, platinum, to get them made instantly. 12 hours seems a fairly reasonable wait to me. It's long enough to present enough of a road hump for people looking for instant gratification to decide that they want to spend real money, but it's also a waitable time frame for other players. The Warframes are different, however. They have blueprints for 3 component parts and then a final blueprint to create the final Warframe. The components take 12 hours each. Yes, you can craft them concurrently, and in fact, there's no limit to the number of things you can craft at one time. However, once those components are made, the final blueprint for the completed Warframe takes 3 days. My instant reaction is that 3 days simply feels too long. I understand that they want ways to monetize the game, and people wanting to rush the crafting must be part of that, but waiting an arbitrary 72 hours on top of the 12 hours for the components feels like a length of time that verges on the mobile gaming in style. I would say, however, that the developers mostly get the balance right between monetizing and free-to-play, but just sometimes it feels like that balance is slightly off. Part of the reason I think some of those story quest rough edges exist is from the frankly impressive rate at which they produce new content. They seem to weight their work towards a greater number of experiences for the many over fewer, more refined activities. They know that they have to keep things fresh to keep the interest up. It seems like a formula that works for them and that their community really responds to. That high cadence of content means that as I write this, there's a new Warframe literally just been released, named Revenant. I can see people logging in and talking on Discord servers about the new quest and how to find those new parts for this new frame. The speed of development also means that there is normally a big announcement in their yearly TennoCon convention. Last year it was the Plains of Eidolon, an open world area, a far cry from the procedurally arranged network of rooms that makes up most of the normal maps. This year TennoCon teased the next big update, Fortuna, with more open world areas, flying hoverboards and alien life to discover. They also revealed a hugely ambitious expansion codenamed Railjack, a sort of co-op space fighting ship game. I don't really know, it looked kind of amazing. I'm very interested to know how it plays. For those wanting to know more, I'll link the developer stream from TennoCon in the description below. And that's probably enough talking from me, but I'd also like to say that there are a couple of great documentaries from NoClip if you want more insight into the company, digital extremes, and the critical nature of the birth of what we now know as Warframe. I'd recommend watching this second part in particular, as it gives real insight on how the company thinks about its own game, what they've learned about their game, their community, and how they see Warframe moving forward. I'll also link both parts of that in the description below. If you are new to Warframe and you're thinking about signing up, it's free of course. There is a referral link in the description below. For me, it's worth in-game items, but for anyone signing up with a referral link, they get a 7-day affinity booster. It's basically an XP booster, so an extra special thanks if you're deciding to use that link. I'm also very interested to know what you think of Warframe. I know this is a new title for this channel, and I've mainly talked about FPS games up until now, so I'm interested to know your feedback and learning what you think about me perhaps talking about Warframe more in the future. Just leave a comment below right now, and I promise to read every single one of them. If you have enjoyed this video, please consider hitting that thumb up, tapping the subscribe button, and ringing that bell icon so you know when the next video goes live. I really do appreciate your support. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time. Take care.